Hello and welcome to the February 2015 Core BTS collaboration webinar. Today we'll be talking about next generation office and meeting spaces, and I'm Lance Cunningham, collaboration architect for Core BTS. So before we get into today's topic, I just want to review the collaboration webinar schedule for Core BTS here over the next couple months. So last month we talked about 2015 Cisco collaboration, the benefit upgrading to the latest releases and features and functionality and other benefits available there. And there's a recording available of that webinar if you missed it. And today we're talking about next generation office and meeting spaces. Next month on March 12th, we will be talking about borderless collaboration. What that means is enabling employees to be flexible and do their work from anywhere, whether it's at home, out in the field, in the random coffee shop, etc. And the tools, capabilities, and impact of doing that. In Q2, starting in April, we'll talk about customer collaboration, which is taking contact center to the next level, enhancing that with video, enhancing that with other capabilities to the concept of what's being referred to as omni-channel, where anyone can interact with your organization, whether it's chat, voice, video, etc. Providing them a rich engagement with your organization. In May, we'll talk about business to business collaboration, about leveraging collaboration technology to increase and strengthen business relationships with partners, supply chain resources, etc. And in June, we'll talk about Core BTS Collaboration Lifecycle Management Service, how Core BTS can help organization make all this stuff work and continue to have a continuous improvement cycle, not only from a technology perspective, but also from an end user adoption, training, etc. perspective. So before we get into today's topic as well, I also want to review the definition of collaboration. So this is something we do at the beginning of every collaboration webinar, is just to make sure that we have equal footing when it comes to the definition of collaboration. So dictionary definition: collaboration is a joint effort of multiple individuals or groups to accomplish a task or goal. Therefore, collaboration has to be a holistic effort that includes people, process, and technology. So that second part is something that Core BTS adds on in order to bring our role of integrating technology into an organization with the people and process to create a collaboration initiative and a collaboration platform. So before we get into the specifics about how the office environment and meeting spaces are changing, let's talk about why they're changing. So, just some good work trends here about how work is more interconnected than ever. 67% of employees report an increase in work requiring active collaboration. We all are enabled these days with our own mobile devices, such as smartphones. Tablets, laptops, etc., and are more mobile than usual, as well as our peers are more mobile than before as well. And so, not only just working in the office with tools that are available to and resources that are available to us, but also connecting with people across boundaries. That this need for active collaboration is becoming more paramount. 57% increase in the number of employees collaborating from other geographic locations. Even small organizations now can be widely geographically separated, if not globally separated. And so the need to be able to collaborate across those geographic locations in real time and asynchronously with effective tools and capabilities is becoming more and more important. 50% of business productivity is tied to effective collaboration. So much of this business activity requires collaborative tools and activities that without a properly designed environment, tool set, process, etc., business productivity can be negatively impacted. On the flip side, if that is well matched, productivity can be significantly increased within an organization based on these changes. So, and at the same time, workers want choice and flexibility, right? As these tools allow us to be more flexible, as well as just the changing dynamic of modern culture today, people are expecting this flexibility, especially the younger workforce. And so 40% of the workforce will be mobile by 2016, meaning they'll be working on the field, they'll be working from home, etc. And that's a real shift where, not too long ago, it was 95+%, went to the office every day. 40% of users use 3 or more devices for video calling, whether it be a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, a telepresence device, etc. I personally have more like 10 or 11, but I've been doing this for a long time and appreciate using video calling whenever I can. And so that flexibility, that need to be able to have real-time audio and ideally even video communication on multiple devices, depending on context, etc., is becoming more important. More on that later. And 94% of business leaders say cloud collaboration enables flexibility. There's rapid innovation going on in this space, and the traditional model of purchasing hardware and software and implementing it internally creates some real time to implementation issues that by the time it gets implemented, sometimes it's outdated already, and really can cause an organization to struggle to keep up with the latest and greatest capabilities. On the flip side of that, cloud accessing collaboration technology in the cloud can make that a non-issue, where you're always consuming the latest and greatest capability, as well as flexible licensing and subscription models. We'll talk more about that a little bit later as well. So again, a little bit more about the personal experience. The lines between working at home and working in the workplace are blurring. Not just are people working at home more, but people are working somewhere in between on a regular basis, as well as the evolution of the tools that we have in the home has, in a lot of cases, had more rapid innovation in the last 5 years than workplace technology. So at work, many of you probably still have a really outdated traditional phone on your desk and an outdated laptop, etc. Or at home, you probably have more robust modern devices such as an iPhone or an Android smartphone, an iPad or Android tablet, and maybe a more updated computer. And so as people at home are getting more enabled with these more flexible technology and tools, and then going to the workplace and having to take a step back, 3 to 5 years, can be a real struggle. And what that means is that people end up, instead of using their equipment at work, they use their own personal devices as well, which has a whole slew of impacts. That we won't go into in depth today, but just know that is an issue. So 61% of employees globally believe they don't need to be in the office to be productive and efficient. In a lot of cases, some feel they can be more effective not in the office because they're not dealing with the day-to-day distraction from their peers if they have something they need to focus on. 60% of a company's desks are vacant at any given time because more people out in the field, more people working from home, flexible work schedules, etc. So that creates a lot of open real estate that is being unutilized, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. And 70% of aspiring executives who plan to manage large teams say they will rely more heavily on video in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's a good sum up of everything that we're talking about here, of people being more flexible, more mobile, more dispersed geographically, and then managers and executives who need to stay connected with those people have really seen the impact of video. So on that note, just a number of facts here about video collaboration, about the positive impact it has on workplace activity. So between improving group collaboration, increasing productivity, improving focus, enhances environmental responsibility, reducing on travel, for example, improves work-life balance, being able to work from home but still engage with people, brings people closer. Nonverbal communication in business conversations can often be as important, if not more important, than verbal communication. So just a few statistics there. I'm not going to go through them all, but feel free to pause the video and watch and look through those in more detail on your own time. But a little bit more about the workplace transformation. So as I mentioned earlier, that over 60% of office space is vacant on a day-to-day basis because of this change in workforce dynamics. And real estate is a financial burden on any organization. And so this is a big deal. Essentially, by this underutilizing space is basically just wasting money. And what we're seeing is that a third of companies out there are looking to consolidate that space in the next year, and the rest will restructure that space in the next few years as this issue becomes more and more apparent. So many are looking to flip from what is currently approximately 70% individualized space, so cubicles, private offices, etc., and 30% collaborative shared space, such as conference rooms, meeting spaces, and other shared space, to the exact opposite. There's 70% collaborative shared space and only 30% individual. And so some examples about how that can be done is if you watch this video on the Cisco Connected Workplace there on YouTube, or if you just go to YouTube and search Cisco Connected Workplace, you'll be able to find it. But less than 7% of conference rooms are currently enabled for video. And so again, that need for this flexible communication and engaging communication model based on the changing workplace, that's a real problem, especially as organizations look to make this shift. So one of the concepts in that video is hot desking, and one of the concepts in how we adapt to this changing workplace is by no longer having a cube assigned to a specific person, but a number of cubes that are open for anyone to step into them, sit down, whether they're from a different branch office or what have you, and log into a phone, or in this case, a DX650, personal collaboration endpoint, and sign in as themselves and make that their desk for an hour, 2 hours, the whole day, etc. And then sign out and step away, and maybe they come back later that day or the next day and pick a different location. But the idea then is that you can have less cube space overall because you're not providing a cube space for every single individual, but only for the average amount of people that are going to be there on a given day. And that opens up more space for shifting, again, more towards that 70% collaborative shared space instead of individualized space. One of the other concepts in the video that you'll see if you watched it is integrated digital signage. Digital signage has been around for quite some time, but it's often been just a very passive, basic technology of a display screen showing content. But however, that has rapidly evolved, particularly with a solution that Core BTS is able to provide with Cisco digital media players and the AppSpace digital signage platform, where we move away from just the traditional signage to much more feature-rich, media-rich environments that include things like emergency messaging. So if there's a fire, automatically pushing out information to all the digital signs within a building or a wing of a building for people to exit the building. Wayfinding, you might see this in airports or large malls today, but it's expanding into other areas as well, school campuses, etc., to help people find their way and not just see it on the sign, but use their smartphone and get the map on their phone and help them navigate around a new space. Real-time data integration, connecting with databases and other data sources in real time and displaying that either within a business based on business activity that's happening at the time, or by displaying real-time data to clientele, customers, etc. IPTV is bringing live or on-demand streaming video into the digital signage platform to add another interactive element and rich media element. Room scheduling, having devices outside of every conference room that are interactable, so that you can, walk up to the conference room, see if it's available, and if it's available, go ahead and reserve it for yourself, and that's automatically pushed out to the back end database scheduling system to make sure that no additional conflicts can be scheduled, and as well as see what's coming up for the rest of the day, the next day, etc. Remote experts, real-time audio and video communication, and bringing in additional media elements and data, etc., into that interaction in real time in order to maximize the experience of a remote expert engagement. So that's, in a nutshell, is some of the impacts on the office space in general, but we're going to talk a little more specifically now about meeting spaces. And in almost every office space, there are conference rooms. We need to get together and work together in person, not just remotely, to collaborate on things. And conference rooms and meeting spaces are often where that happens. but a lot of conference rooms are not well designed, either from a technology perspective or from a room design perspective. And we're going to talk through some of these issues that impact the experience in a conference room. So, from a technology perspective, there's often outdated, redundant, or lack of technology, or if there is technology, too many remote controls or confusing control interfaces and systems, as well as poor cable management or connectivity that just doesn't create for a good experience and can cause wasted time, distraction, etc. In dealing with these issues. Room design problems can be sight lines and other implementation issues, aesthetics and lighting, furniture and comfort, etc. And we'll talk more about these in a little bit. And then also scheduling space versus scheduling technology issues. There might be one scheduling system for the space, but then a second scheduling system, say for scheduling voice or video conferencing, and the opportunity for those to overlap with each other and create scheduling problems. And all these together basically create an inconsistent meeting room experience that doesn't allow for meetings in those spaces to be as effective as they possibly can. So, a little bit first about the outdated, redundant, or lack of technology. Um, Most conference rooms today that do have technology probably have a projector that's been around for several years. Um, and the problem with projectors is a couple things. One is maintenance cost, replacing bulbs, etc. They take time to warm up and even to be used at the beginning of the meeting. There are often light or contrast issues, particularly if the meeting room has windows. And particularly for integrating real-time video communication, video conferencing, telepresence into the room, um, having reduced light so that the projector image is good, but then enough light for the cameras is often a problem. And then also just the general cost in order to have a projector that's bright enough in order to compete with the ambient um, and in-room lighting can add significant cost. And it used to be that you needed to have a projector in order to get a sizable image in a conference room. However, with the evolution of LCD, LED displays and the lowering of cost of those, as well as the increase in size of those, that is flip-flopped, where it's more economical now to do an LED display in a room and a better experience as opposed to a projector. Now, obviously, in some cases with like really large, 40 plus person conference rooms, the cost of an LED display that's over 100 inches, there's a breaking point there, and at some point projectors do still make sense. But in your average, especially in the small conference room space, all the way up to 20 plus participants, even LED displays are a much more effective way to go. As well as in the past, you often need quite a bit of AV electronics. So here, for example, there's a picture of a rack there with multiple electronics in it to control a conference room, from microphones to audio mixers to video devices to matrix switchers, etc. And all these things need to be integrated together, programmed together, and that can create multiple points of failure for ongoing maintenance, cabling issues, etc. And often when I see when these things start to fail is it, instead of getting fixed, that basically the conference room experience continues to degrade until finally a complete rip and replace is asked for. So also from a redundant technology perspective, let's say like if there's a conference room with a projector and then someone wants to add video conferencing to it, oftentimes simply the video conferencing device is brought in on an LCD display on a cart next to it and not integrated with the projector, and then that creates user confusion because they're not sure when to use the projector and when to use the other device, for example, and again can be overlapping control systems. Or both a video conference system and a phone conference system in the same room. Because in the past, video conferencing was not well integrated into the telephony world, and that's just completely changed with modern telepresence devices. There's no reason with the correct configuration back-end call control that a telepresence device can't also be the phone conferencing system as well. So instead of dialing a video number, you dial a phone number, or in a lot of cases, telepresence also is just simply adopting phone number dialing as well. So you dial, and based on what you connect to, whether you you either pass video back and forth, or if you connect, the remote party only supports audio, then it simply connects as an audio call. But the point is, you have one set of microphones, one control interface, and one experience for whether or not you're doing a video conference or a voice conference. And in general, most conference rooms don't even have technology in them to enable collaboration. A lot of conference rooms might just be a table and chairs, and you still can collaborate in those spaces, but not as effectively if they are technology enabled. And a lot of that had to do because of the price point of enabling those conference rooms previously was cost prohibitive, but now the opportunity cost by not having those conference rooms enabled is actually higher than the minimal technology that it takes to equip them on a basic level. So more about the whole remote concept. I've been doing this for a long time, and I despise remote controls. Even to this day, whenever I get a remote control for a video conferencing device, I have to look at it for a couple of seconds and be like, "What do I do again?" And so, no, thank you. No, and not just one remote, but I've seen multiple conference rooms where there's not just one remote, but there's 3, 4, 5. One for the projector, one for the maybe one for the video conferencing device, one for something else, etc. And that can become a real user experience burden that really reduces the effectiveness of a collaboration space. On the same note, Crestron AMX Extron systems for touch panel control of bringing multiple electronics together have been a way to reduce that in the past, but often these custom user interfaces are not well designed. Adding and making adjustments to the environment requires additional programming, which is usually not available in-house. That takes time, money, etc. Upgrades to components such as a video conferencing system can break that control integration, which again takes time, money, etc., for an external expert to come in and fix. And more components again equals more points of failure. As well as these control systems can often limit the activity that can happen in these conference spaces with those devices based on a limited feature set that actually can be supported and programmed via these control systems. So a new innovation from Cisco that's been around for a while now is using these touch panels with all-in-one control devices so that you have one simple control panel for displaying content, whether you're in a voice or video call or not, controlling a voice call, controlling a video call, etc. And with a really nice, easy to use, simple interface. And if you upgrade the code on the telepresence device that is essentially running your conference room, it also updates the software on the touch panel, again maintaining a consistent user experience that doesn't get broken from an upgrade path. So see here just a couple of screenshots of joining a call, answering a call, sharing content, etc. But really the real power of this is a consistent user experience, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. So another addition to this control concept is Cisco Proximity, which allows you to see, control, and capture content from a meeting room on your own device. So bringing an iPhone or an iPad or an Android device into a conference room and being able to wirelessly pair with the telepresence device and content that's being shared as part of the meeting, you can see it directly on your mobile device and can zoom in on the details, go back and forth of the presentation. And if you miss something and wanted to go back and look at a previous slide, as well as take snapshots and store that for reference after the meeting, all can be done by anyone in the meeting room if allowed with that proximity application. As well as some simple call control. I can answer the call, I can hang up the call, I can make a call, I can control volume and mute. So between proximity and these touch panels, as well as the interfaces on the rest of the collaboration portfolio from Cisco, the big thing is consistent user experience. You learn one of these devices and you know how to use them all because all the icons, the look and feel is consistent across all the endpoints. And more on the endpoints here in a few minutes. But again, what this is about is moving from taking a technology-centric approach to collaboration about companies such as Cisco developing technology for people to use and adapt into business use cases. And the whole product line has been re-envisioned from a user-centric approach that allows um, technology to be designed and from that user experience first, and maximizing that user experience, and that opens up the door for more uh, flexible collaboration, and as well as flexibility in for context. It used to be if you're going to do a video conference, you had to be in a video conferencing room that interacted with other video conferencing device, but a lot of innovation development has been going on for the last a year or two in this space to allow people to connect anywhere from the browser and mobile device all the way up to the high-end boardroom and everywhere in between. And more on that later about how we can connect from multiple devices and have interoperability and flexibility for joining a meeting. Um, Besides telepresence device innovation, there's also been innovation on just simple desktop phones from Cisco in the last year. Which, how much can you innovate around a desk phone? But the new phones are rather impressive. Some really neat things about pairing your personal smartphone with your desk phone for contacts, recent calls, etc. And then an advancement of the personal telepresence space of not just having a phone on your desk anymore, but a real-time telepresence and voice communication device with the DX650, 70, and 80. Just some really impressive design and feature functionality. So again, another YouTube clip. If you go out to YouTube and search for Empower Every Desk with Collaboration, you can get a preview of what the experience of using some of these devices is like. But more importantly, in the context of conference rooms and meeting room spaces, is this evolution of the telepresence product portfolio. So the entire telepresence product portfolio from Cisco has been re-engineered in the last year with these devices to accommodate anything from a small room at a low budget all the way up to the high-end immersive room experience and everywhere in between. So we're going to highlight some of these scenarios here on the next few slides. So starting with small spaces, the SX10 is a really neat product innovation from Cisco in the last year that allows a room to be equipped with 1080p standards-based high quality telepresence at roughly the same cost of the third-party display you attach it to. So the SX10 you see there right up there on top of the display with the little camera in the middle. That's the entire device. You plug in and power it over Ethernet. You plug in HDMI into the monitor, and you're effectively set up. You can also plug in a computer via HDMI or VGA to share content. But for a very low cost, you can outfit a small conference room space with telepresence, or as an all-in-one unit with the MX200 or 300, which is a 42 or 55-inch screen with the camera, the speakers, the display. Everything is all built in. Again, you plug in power, you plug in network, and run out a cable for plugging in your laptop to share content with, and it's up and running. One piece of electronics instead of multiple in order to bring a solution together. Looking at slightly larger spaces of 4, 6, maybe 8 participants might require the need to go to a dual display model that allows you to add a second display for content. So with the SX20 that you see on the left, where you can bring your own third-party displays and have one display for the remote video participant and one display for the content, really maximizing that engagement that way. And then the MX300 can also be supported that way. As you see, with a third-party display mounted above it, has an HDMI output in order to support an external display as well. Moving forward to larger conference room spaces, some innovations with the MX700 and 800 really to simplify the electronic footprint of a conference room, where you have two 55-inch displays and two cameras with speaker track, which we'll talk about in a minute. All into one device. Again, you plug in a power cable and you plug in a network cable, and everything is self-contained in this device. So whether or not you're sharing content with people just in the room, or you're connecting externally via voice for audio conference or connecting remotely for a video conference, one device, one user experience, one control platform, and one manufacturer to deal with for support. So really impressive clean design and a couple different implementations. This one's secure to the wall. There's another option with a freestanding with some support, perpendicular support feet off that U bracket, or the U bracket on the base there can be removed and completely wall mounted as well. So some flexibility there. And the 800 is its close sibling. Instead of dual 55s, it's a single 70-inch screen. Again, can also come with speaker track, which we'll talk about in a minute. But also has the ability to add additional displays to the side or somewhere else in the conference room for splitting that content out into a different display. And then on the lower right there is the SX80, which is the integrated codec that can also have speaker track there, as you see the two cameras in front of those two displays there, but can connect it to third-party displays to create a custom solution. So speaker track is a concept that removes the burden of end users to having to control the position of cameras. It uses two cameras and audio and video analytics in order to analyze the activity of a room and determine who's speaking, where they're speaking, and frame the most appropriate shot. And then if someone else is speaking, the second camera finds the other person and frames the shot and makes a switch. So basically, it's like having a video producer in the room directing the camera shots of a meeting without anybody having to touch anything. A really impressive feature, as well as the flexibility to create this new concept called a briefing room, or think of it as a training room where you can have multiple displays, a large display for content, a display for the remote party, speaker track camera capabilities, and a side display and content, and switch between these modes of local presenter mode, remote presenter mode, and even discussion mode of the two student bodies interacting with each other by simply pressing a single button. By pressing one button, the display assignments and the camera positions all change in order to support those modes. So just a recap of these features: touch 10 and intelligent proximity really create new easy ways to control conference room designs. The MX all-in-one designs present an all-in-one solution of the display, the cameras, the speakers, etc., the control interface, all part of one unit. And then the SX10, SX20, and SX80 allow for those more flexible deployments. And again, either a solution-based or a complete all-in-one solution for virtually any size conference or meeting room space. And then the speaker track to maximize that in-meeting experience without having to worry about camera positioning. And again, a consistent user experience across all these devices. So a bit more about all these devices and their features and functionality can be found in these Collaboration for Everyone videos that can be found on YouTube. And then lastly, the latest telepresence endpoint from Cisco is this reimagining of the immersive experience with the X5000. Words don't do it justice. I highly suggest going out to YouTube and searching for this Collaboration Beyond the Boardroom YouTube video, which really walks through the overall features of the X5000 and the dramatic innovation that has happened here in this immersive telepresence environment. And again, this is 100% interoperable with everything that you've seen here. So all the way from the SX10 or even mobile devices can connect to this immersive room as a participant. Another resource to go look at is Cisco Project Workplace. Just go to your search engine of choice and type in Cisco Project Workplace. It'll take you right to it, and you can explore different scenarios and different meeting room concepts and get some ideas about how you can use this technology and simplify your conference and meeting room spaces in a more user-friendly, effective manner that creates more productivity for your employees. But beyond the devices, the physical space also matters. So lighting, paint color, whiteboard, room acoustics, microphone placement, tables and chairs, and other equipment all feed into the user experience. So what I've seen happen too often is organizations purchase some fancy new equipment and they just simply slap it in without taking into account some of these other things. And while, yes, the new technology will have an improvement in the meeting space, taking into these other accounts and making some minor modifications can have a dramatic impact on the overall success of a new technology implementation. So on that note, and some of you have maybe seen this before if you've participated in collaboration webinars, is that we view collaboration as a cycle starting with the business activity that we all have activity that we need to accomplish within our organizations for collaborating with our peers outside of our organization, etc. And those activities are going to define certain capabilities that we need from a technology perspective, a process perspective, as well as a people perspective. And based on the choices we make to fulfill those capabilities, and I'll speak specifically about technology for right now, we'll create certain experiences. We choose good tools and technology to enable that business activity. We'll have good experiences, and that's going to have a positive impact on behavior because we will use the technology more often. We'll experience increased productivity, which then has a positive impact on culture. If we have bad experiences, that will have a negative impact on behavior, and we won't use the technology to its fullest. We won't experience new processes and new productivity, and can potentially have a negative impact on culture and business productivity. So again, this is all about not just technology, but people, process, and technology. And we have put together a suite of services as to how we can help with this. So collaboration needs assessment is interviews with stakeholders, documenting of current business activity and processes, so we can understand how are people collaborating today, and what maybe they need to do in the future. And then looking at the technology footprint within an organization and assessing it if it is meeting those needs, or if modifications even be needed, or in some cases maybe a complete technology overhaul in order to really uh, provide the capabilities needed for those activities that were defined in a needs assessment. And then looking at conference and other meeting spaces within an organizations with collaboration spaces assessments. Again, beyond just the technology, are there improvements in lighting and other aesthetics of a room that need to be improved in order to maximize the effectiveness of a space? Collaboration implementation services are a traditional model of coming in and implementing solutions. And then training and adoption services of following up and making sure that um, people don't just know how to use a tool, but adoption services is making sure that people know how to use these tools and capabilities within their business context, within the business activities that have been identified as a priority for the organization. So a mix of advisory services, professional services, and managing cloud services to make this all happen. And really, it's about bringing this process brings executive leadership, line of business department leadership, IT services, and HR, marketing, and non-IT central functions together in a shared vision, a way that we get everybody on the same page as far as what are the activities that are required in an organization, and the technology and the capabilities and the processes required to make them successful, and getting everybody on the same page. But it's not just about the technology in the conference room. It's also about how we bring these conference rooms together. And so that user experience matters when we're deciding to collaborate, when scheduling a meeting, when participating in a meeting, and after the meeting as well. And in the past, voice, video, web conferencing, and video conferencing have been very different technologies, and we had to choose one when we were deciding to collaborate. Am I going to do a voice call? Am I going to do a video conference, etc.? And based on my choice, I'm limiting or impacting one of these 5 things: access, engagement, flexibility, location, or capability. So, for example, if I'm choosing a voice conference, I am maximizing access, but I'm severely limiting engagement by simply having a voice call. However, if I'm having a video conferencing, I may be maximizing engagement and capability, but I'm limiting access and flexibility, and particularly location, because I got to make sure everybody gets to the same spot. But now, as this has evolved, we can bring all these things together and create a collaboration platform that is greater than the sum of its parts. And one of the key pieces to that is Cisco Collaboration Meeting Rooms, which creates a consistent meeting room experience across any mobile, desktop, or room-based video endpoint. And you can have up to 25 endpoints, and anywhere between 25 and 1,000 web participants, all as part of the same meeting. And again, you no longer have to worry about, are they voice participants, are they web conferencing participants, or are they video conferencing or telepresence participants? It's all the same meeting, and people join via the technology that's available to them at the time of the meeting. And multiple flavors of how to consume this, either in the cloud, hybrid, or on premise, with having telepresence conferencing resources on premise or in the cloud. So just know that there are flexible modes of consuming these technologies, and we can help choose the right one for any organization to maximize. But the main thing is there's one conferencing platform, one meeting, one solution, no matter what device you're coming in on. If you're connecting via voice, if you're connecting via immersive telepresence, and everywhere in between. Everyone can join, share audio, video, content, etc., seamlessly from WebEx to Telepresence, Telepresence to WebEx, etc. Just a really impactful conferencing platform. So, in short, that's the what we wanted to cover today. And there's one more video that you can go out there and watch. Search YouTube for video collaboration everywhere and at every desk. It kind of brings all this kind of full circle about how all this technology can be all brought together into a real world context. And feel free to reach out to me at any time, lance.cunningham@corebts.com, or look me up on LinkedIn, Lance Cunningham at Core BTS. And I look forward to working with you on evolving your workplace into next generation office and working spaces. All right. Thank you very much.